Have you ever just paused and thought about how incredibly resilient your body is? Not like lifting weights resilience, but something quieter, more internal. Imagine this just for a second. Your stomach, that amazing organ working away right now. What if it came up against, say, a razor blade? Could it actually digest it, break it down? It sounds, well, frankly, like something from a horror movie or a really weird urban legend, doesn't it? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the shocking, maybe slightly terrifying science behind what your stomach can actually handle. We're going to unpack the source material, specifically an article called Stomach's Razor Edge, Digestion Power Debunked, and see what the facts really are. And what we find out might just make you look at that internal chemical factory you carry around a little differently.
It's definitely a wild question. And let's just get this out up front. It sounds dangerous because it is incredibly dangerous. But the sheer idea, could our insides really tackle something like metal? It actually gives us a pretty unique way to understand just how powerful our biology is. So yeah, we're going to pull back the curtain on the science, see what's really happening in there.
Right. Because that image, a razor blade inside you, it's deeply unsettling. And beyond just the ick factor, there's a massive, serious concern here. And this is where we need to be crystal clear. Like, absolutely 100%, nobody should ever, ever, under any circumstances, swallow a razor blade or any foreign object, really. The consequences can be severe, even deadly. We have to emphasize that. This is purely a scientific exploration, a hypothetical.
Exactly. And it's that inherent danger that ironically sparks some scientific interest. Not through human tests. Obviously, that would be completely unethical. No, this is explored in labs, carefully controlled studies. Sometimes it's about understanding accidental ingestions, which sadly do happen, but it's also, just pushing boundaries of understanding. Probing the power of our own biology. It's sort of like asking, does that regular garden hose in your backyard secretly have the power of a pressure washer? Is the stomach that capable with metal, or is that just myth?
Okay, so to even start answering that, we need to talk about the stomach's main weapon, right?
Yeah.
Gastric acid. Specifically, hydrochloric acid,
Uh-huh.
HCl. And this isn't just like a bit sour. It's a serious chemical powerhouse doing some heavy lifting.
Oh, powerhouse is the right word. We're talking about the same kind of potent acid that's used industrially, for cleaning steel and other metals. To really get it, think about the pH scale. You've got 7, that's neutral, like water. Then down towards 0 is more acidic. Battery acid is near 0. Your stomach acid, it usually sits somewhere between pH 1 and 3. Sometimes it can even dip down to 0.8. Think about lemon juice or vinegar. They feel pretty acidic, right? They're around pH 2 or 3. Your stomach acid is significantly stronger than that. Yeah, it's on another level, like a high-pressure hose versus a little squirt gun.
Wow. That's way more intense than I pictured. And this super strong acid isn't just there to be impressive. It has vital jobs to do.
Oh, absolutely vital. Its main job is starting the breakdown of food, getting it ready so your intestines can absorb the nutrients later on. It also activates key digestive enzymes, pepsin, for example, which specifically goes after proteins. And maybe one of its most critical roles, it acts like a sterilizer, kills off harmful bacteria, viruses, things that might hitch a ride on your food. It's a key part of your immune defense. And get this, your stomach makes about 1.5 liters of this potent stuff every single day.
1.5 liters daily.
That's a lot, which brings up the obvious question. If this acid is strong enough to potentially corrode metal, how does the stomach stop itself from, dissolving? That's where the body's genius design comes in. It's like a high-security vault in there with multiple layers of defense. First, there's this thick layer of mucus coating the entire stomach lining. Think of it like a slick, protective gel barrier. Then, the stomach cells themselves secrete bicarbonate, that's an alkaline substance, the opposite of acid, and it gets trapped in that mucus layer. So this bicarbonate neutralizes any acid that gets too close to the actual stomach wall. It creates this cool pH gradient, super acidic, like pH 1 to 3, out in the middle where the food is, but almost neutral, like pH 7, right up against the cells. And on top of that, the cells lining your stomach regenerate incredibly fast, like a road crew constantly patching potholes. Any tiny bit of damage gets fixed almost immediately. It's this whole dynamic shield system. It prevents ulcers, stops self-digestion, really remarkable biological engineering, keeping everything in balance.
Okay, that makes sense. So you have this powerful acid, but also these amazing defenses. So what does happen when metal, like a razor blade, enters that environment? So Grant tested on people. How do scientists figure this out?
They use something called simulated gastric juice. Basically, they recreate the stomach's chemical environment in a lab beaker, keeping it at body temperature, around 37 degrees Celsius. There was a key study back in 1997 published in a journal called Gastrointestinal Endoscopy. They tested various metal objects this way, including razor blades. And the results are pretty specific. They found that double-edged razor blades lost about 37% of their mass after soaking for 24 hours. After just 15 hours, the blades actually became fragile enough that they could be broken with a medical snare, like the ones used in endoscopies. And here's something even more striking. The thicker back part of a single-edged blade, it dissolved completely in just 2 hours. You can maybe picture it like a sugar cube dissolving in hot tea, although, different parts of the metal react differently. But the main point is, yes, the lab results confirm it. Stomach acid can significantly corrode metal.
Okay, 37% loss in 24 hours, complete dissolution of part of it in 2 hours. That sounds pretty effective. But that's in a lab beaker, right? A static environment. A real stomach isn't just sitting still like that. Things move through. How does that change the picture?
That's the absolute crucial difference. Time. In a real functioning stomach, things don't just sit there for 24 hours, or even 2 hours usually. Food and anything else you swallow gets mixed into this pulpy stuff called chyme, and normally that moves out of the stomach and into the small intestine within, say, 30 minutes to maybe 4 hours. Now, it is true that foreign objects, especially non-food items, can sometimes stay in the stomach longer, maybe even weeks in some rare cases. But, and this is critical for something sharp like a razor blade, doctors consider it an emergency. They want it out immediately because of the injury risk. So that 24-hour corrosion time seen in the lab, that's way, way longer than an object would typically be in the stomach before moving on or being removed. Even the 2 hours it took to dissolve the thicker part of the blade in the study, well, the sharp edges are still incredibly dangerous during those 2 hours. So yes, the acid starts the corrosion process, but it's slow, much slower than the blade's potential to cause serious immediate harm.
Right. Which brings us back, full circle, to the most vital takeaway here, the absolute non-negotiable point. If someone swallows a razor blade, it is a dire medical emergency, full stop. You don't wait and see if the acid works.
Absolutely not. The risks are immediate and incredibly severe. You're looking at things like perforation, the blade cutting through the wall of the esophagus, stomach, or intestines. That can cause massive internal bleeding, or something called peritonitis, which is a dangerous infection inside your abdomen, life-threatening stuff. The blade could also cause an obstruction, just blocking everything up, which would require emergency surgery to fix. And then there are the lacerations, the cuts, just from the sharp edges scraping along as it moves, widespread damage. That's why the medical advice is always immediate removal, usually with an endoscope. Doctors do not wait for stomach acid to maybe eventually partially dissolve it. The corrosion is too slow, and the physical danger is too high, too fast. So please do not ever, ever try this. It cannot be stressed enough.
Okay, so let's break it down clearly then. The final verdict, myth versus fact. Can your stomach actually digest a razor blade?
All right, fact. Your stomach acid is powerful enough to corrode metal. Lab studies prove that. Razor blades lose significant mass over many hours in simulated gastric juice. That part is true. Myth. The idea that your stomach can quickly and safely digest a razor blade, making it harmless before it causes damage, that is completely false. And the reason the myth is so dangerous is time. The corrosion takes far, far too long. The sharp edges pose an immediate, potentially fatal threat long before the acid can neutralize them. Your stomach is an amazing chemical factory, yes, but it is absolutely not a safe place to dissolve metal in the real world.
Wow. This whole deep dive, it really highlights just how incredible your stomach is, doesn't it? We just think of it as dealing with lunch, but it's this powerful chemical plant, breaking down food, fighting off germs, all happening right now without us giving it a second thought.
Exactly. And the fact that it can corrode metal, even if it's mostly relevant in lab settings, just underscores what an amazing piece of evolutionary engineering it is. It's not just about brute strength, though. It's that balance, right? Powerful enough to start breaking down tough materials, but also sophisticated enough to protect itself constantly. It's performing these extraordinary tasks quietly, efficiently, every single minute. That's the real wonder here, I think. The hidden power and the complex defense systems working together.
It really is pretty wild to think about what's going on inside us. So thinking about the stomach's incredible sort of hidden power, maybe it makes you wonder, right? What other everyday things are your body doing right now that are secretly extraordinary feats we just take for granted? Something to think about. Keep exploring. Stay curious about yourself and the world. That's what we try to do here with the Deep Dive.